Hello, my name's Carlin Henderson.
And I'm Caleb Henderson.
We did our project at the school forest over the wildlife observation tower, and our stakeholder was Mr. Grant Rents.
So our project objectives. The objectives of this project was to design and build a wildlife observation tower. The tower needed to be large enough and strong enough to hold 2 to 3 people at one time. And the location of the tower was built in the corner of a food plot at the school forest. It's a 7-acre food plot, and the purpose of this tower is for white-tailed deer hunting, for necropsy specimens because the shot placement is critical. So you need a good stand where you could see the deer clearly, and that stand does just that. So to start this project, we were originally supposed to build a bridge, but we went to the school forest to look at where the bridge needed to be built and kind of how it would be designed. And we discussed with Mr. Rents that the scope and just the project was gonna be too large. It wasn't feasible for us to complete, and we're not quite engineers to build a bridge. So after him and Mr. Ford talked back and forth for a little bit, he just asked us if we wanted to build a wildlife observation tower. And so that was kind of how our project shifted focus to the observation tower. And then we went and sat down and we discussed the location and the size of the tower with Mr. Rents. And after that, me and Carlin come back and we started to design it and get the material list. And this was the final material list right here that we have proposed, or that we have here on this video, and it's the same exact one that we had for the proposal. So,
So we broke the construction of our project down into the work days we spent out there. The first morning of the project, we got with Dr. Rents and met him at Lowe's here in Tifton to gather the supplies we needed for the project. The next step was to go out and get on the location. At that point, we put stakes in the ground and ran strings to square up our post. We needed a perfect 8x6 square before we started construction. Then at that point, we took post hole diggers and dug 4 36-inch deep holes. After that, we put our posts in the ground and concreted them in. Once we got those set and concreted in, we added supports to hold the post in place while the concrete was setting.
so after we set the posts, we poured the concrete in there and we decided to just let them sit over the weekend. We didn't pour any water in there because once we dug the holes at 36 inches, the water table was down there at the bottom, and we knew that the moisture from the atmosphere and stuff over day and night it would harden the concrete. So we let it harden over the weekend. We gave it a couple of days because we wanted to make sure we wasn't going to get on there when the concrete was still soft or while it was still setting. And so once we went back out there, we took a chainsaw to cut the tops off evenly because we wasn't exactly sure if we got the post down there exactly at 36 inches after you set them in the hole or not. So we measured up from where we put those 2x4s on and made sure that it was even on all 4 sides where we cut the tops. And then from there, we notched out each side to put the 2x6s for the floor joists. And we set our floor joists on 16-inch centers.
So day 3 was essentially our shortest work day. We checked the weather before we left, and it was looking like rain, but we still decided to go out and try and get some work done. On day 3, we took the plywood and put it on top of the roof and got it trimmed up and set on the roof. And then about the time we got that done, we unfortunately got rained out on day 3.
So work days 4, 5, and 6 was our longest work days. That was building the staircase, which was probably one of the more difficult parts besides actually setting the 6x6 post in the ground. Um, so on work day number 4, we set the posts, the 4x4 post for our staircase stringers. And actually, before we set those posts, I went home on the weekend and took the stringer boards with me, the 2x12 by 10s, and took them home and I cut the stringers um, at my house because it was easier for me to do it there, just bring it back and set them up. And so after we had the post set, we set the post in concrete. Those we only set down to 24 inches deep, only because they're not going to be holding as much weight as the actual stand itself, and concreting them 2 foot in would have been plenty of fine. So on the first day, we set the concrete, we set the posts, and we set up half of the stringers. On workday number 5, we set up the other half of the stringers, and on workday number 6, we come back and we actually ran our boards going across for the actual staircase. And like I said, this was the longest part. It was difficult because we had to connect stringers together because we had two 10-foot boards to connect together, and we had to support it. If you can look down in the bottom of the photo there, on the bottom photo, you can kind of see how we had to support it with 2x6s across and brace it up with some 2x4s where the post met. And you can see where the post is hanging up, where the post is coming above the staircase. That's for the handrail, so we didn't cut it off flush with the top of the staircase.
So workday number 7 was by far our most productive workday. We received help from Noah and Lawton on this day. This day we had planned on when we finally got the help from Noah and them and got it lined up with them. We're going to need some extra help lifting these walls up the staircase. So we started out the day by building the walls. We would stud them up, and then we would measure the plywood and cut it to fit the walls. We had to do this for 4 walls, the door, the front opening, front window of the deer stand, and then the 2 sides. When we got one built, we would take it up the stairs, tote the completed wall upstairs, and lift it up, and then screw it down. And we repeated this process for all 4 walls on that day.
Yeah, and the last one we put on was the one with the door, and we left the door frame empty because it would just make the wall easier to get up there because it was difficult because we wasn't able to set it on top of the platform and then stand it up. We had to walk it up the staircase, put it right there on the corner where it needed to be, and then finish walking it up. So that was by far the most difficult one, but between us and Noah and Dalton, we were able to get it done with ease. And workday number 8 was our final workday. This is kind of where we just went in and we completed the odds and ends stuff that needed to be done. You know, we did the roof, we did the door, we did the railing. That was it. And we kind of cleaned up around the site and all afterwards. So when we put the roof on, we needed a roofing ladder because it was like 20 something foot to the top of it. The platform set at 13 foot, and so 8 foot above that was where we needed our ladder to get on there with the roof. But we put 5 sheets of tin up there. We got all that screwed down. And then we framed the door and walked the door up there and set the door up. We set the door on 2 gate hinges, and it's got a hook and eye latch on the outside and the inside. That way, when you're on the outside, it's also got a door handle on the outside, so you can pull it open and closed. But you can lock it from the outside so it won't blow open when you're on the inside or when you're leaving it, and then you can lock it from the inside so it won't blow open while you're in there. But yeah, and then we added a 36-inch handrail, and that's just for ease of walking up and down the stand, so you have some support when you're walking up and down the ladder, the staircase.
Also, part of the roofing process is we took some spray foam just to kind of insulate, make sure everything was kind of leak proof, and tried to close up some of the gaps in the roof and the small gaps in the side walls and areas of other open areas of the deer stand that need to be sealed up. So here's just our timeline for the project, start to finish, from the setting of the post to tying up the odds and ends with the handrail in the door and putting the roof on. Some things you won't see included in this is the time we spent getting the supplies with Dr. Rentz. But you can see, as we had mentioned before, just how long it took us to get the staircase up. That was the most time-consuming part of the project. It took over the course of 3 different days of work, and it totaled about 11 hours of work on that staircase. And then we said the most productive day was the day we had Noah and Lawton helping us. In 4.5 hours, we were able to get all 4 walls up on the deer stand, which was a huge help on the time of building the deer stand.
And so now we're going to talk about some future add-ons and uses of the tower because as we discussed with Mr. Rentz, he said, you know, he really wanted to make this a multi-use stand, not only just getting hunting for necropsies out of it. And one of the ideas that he brought to light was an idea of a rainwater collection system. And what that would look like is someone would have to design a gutter system, you know, out of PVC pipe or anything really that can hold water. And it would run down into the stand, into the bottom of the stand below it where the 4 posts meet. And he said that someone would have to build another floor down there. And on that floor, they would sit a water container, a water jug, something that would hold water of nice size, a lot of water, and set it on there. And it would be high enough where he could back his Ranger up under there and be able to access the spigot to fill up backpacks for your water backpacks for prescribed burning and wildfires. His thought being that, you know, just in case there's any escape fire or anything and you need extra water, or if you're just on a prescribed burn in general and you need to put out a lot of snags, sometimes we use a lot of water to prescribe fires. And sometimes it's easier just to have somewhere to access that water really close instead of having to go all the way back up there to where there's running water at the building to fill back up the backpacks. So
Another thing that will be added on in the future is he had mentioned towards the end of the project that the next group would come along and add an additional handrail just to add a little bit more security when climbing into the deer stand.
yeah, and when we discussed designing the project to begin with, just designing the deer stand, we specifically asked him if he wanted one or two handrails to start with. He said one, and afterwards, once he kind of looked at it, he just decided might as well build two. But he said that that would be something that they added on later on, and just to give more support, so you got something to hold on to both sides while walking up the staircase. And this is the final product. You can see kind of the front view, the back view, and the indoor view. Inside, I say we met the objectives. It's nice and sizable inside. You could fit 2 to 3 people. We actually had 5 people on there all at one time when Noah and Lawton was helping, and Leroy also come down to check it out. We were all 5 up there at one time, even going up the staircase, walking the walls up there. So I would say that the stand is structural. Structural integrity is good enough to hold 5 people. um, and it's like I said, it's nice size. You can shoot bows out of it, you can shoot crossbows, and you can shoot rifles, which was another desire that he had on all three, to do all three of those out of that, and you can do that as well. You've got a nice view from up there, and as you can tell on the top left picture there, we didn't cross beam the front because he said just don't worry about it because eventually we're going to add that extra floor in for that water collection system, and he just no sense in putting it up if he's going to take it back down. And it really didn't compromise the structural integrity of it any because with the staircase and those cross beams on the back, it held it up just fine. And so, like we said, I mean, it's structural enough and it's size enough, and overall, it was a fun project. And we had a good time doing it.
Thank you.
Thank you.